Welcome to Nova SBE, a school by the sea, looking beyond the horizon. Here you are investing in your career, alongside an international community of students, executives, entrepreneurs, researchers, and organizations ready to impact the world. Here you can discover new paths. We have the best executive education in Portugal, elected by the Financial Times, and infinite learning possibilities that go beyond the limits of time and space. Here we focus on the challenges of today and the future with a wide range of customized, intensive, and postgraduate programs and executive master's degrees in 7 strategic areas to strengthen your knowledge, networking, and employability. Here, you are a part of an innovation ecosystem. With our research laboratories and knowledge centers, we work to accelerate technology and grant you countless possibilities for growth. Here you will find a learning community with more than 17,000 former students and exclusive access to programs, international events, and other opportunities so that we can continue to grow together. Our mission is to accompany you at every moment of your personal and professional journey. We start today. Because here at Nova SBE, we believe in lifelong learning. Good luck.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Katia Marinho, Program Advisor at Nova SBE Executive Education, and I'm thrilled to host today's session on a topic that could not be more relevant or urgent: the sustainable energy transition. This is not just about technology or policy, it's about leadership, it's about preparing individuals and organizations to navigate uncertainty, lead systemic change, and foster collaboration across borders and industries. And that is exactly what this is now new executive program and aims to do. Today we'll hear from the people behind this initiative, who will explain how the program works, why it was created, and how it can be supported, and how it can support leaders in building a resilient, sustainable energy future. Let me introduce you our guest speakers. Luis Veiga Martins is the Executive Director of the Sustainable Energy Transition Program, Adjunct Assistant Professor at Nova SBE, and Director at UNITAR, CIFAL. Luis has held leadership roles in sustainability across public and private sector, including as Chief Sustainability Officer at Nova SBE, Director General of Sociedade Ponto Verde, and Chair of the PRME Chapter Iberia. He brings a wealth of expertise in sustainability strategy, policy, and education. Eduardo Moura is Senior ESG Advisor at EDP, a global energy company. Eduardo is responsible for driving key ESG initiatives across EDP and brings a pragmatic, business-oriented view of the energy transition. In the executive program, he leads sessions focused on the realities of ESG in the energy sector, innovation, and long-term impact. I now hand over to our guest speakers right now.
Thank you, Katia, and good morning, Eduardo. And thank you very much to join us in this conversation about our program, EDP and Nova SBE, and this challenging subject, energy transition. Today we'll talk about different topics that will be covered in the program, and I start by one which is climate action and geopolitical fundamentals. Is the first module of our course. And the war in Ukraine and the US-China trade tensions have reshaped global energy flows, exposing vulnerabilities in dependence on fossil fuels and critical minerals. Okay, while Europe is accelerating investments in renewable to reduce exposure to geopolitical crises, developing countries face prohibitive transition costs. World Bank indicates that 75% of clean energy investments are concentrated in advanced economies, widening technological asymmetries. How are current geopolitical tensions and the trade war between major powers affecting the energy sector and the energy transition strategy, and how do you think will be addressed in our program?
Yeah, it's hi. Hi, everyone. Huge topic. You slightly touched the subject and the issues and the challenges. Of course, we are under a moment, a special moment in terms of political, geopolitical timing, and for energy, the energy sector, we feel also that is a moment. Okay. Uh, but the goal of the first session is to speak about what is difficult, contradictions, dynamics, different narratives about energy, because we have a lot of different narratives. About taking ideas but not looking to the complementary ideas, like unbalance between regions or sectors or innovation and so on. So we are navigating a difficult ocean with many players. And the main topic here is, of course, in this moment, we believe that the sector, the renewable sector, or the low carbon sector, is not changing the strategy. But in terms of tactics, many things changed. Concentrating the organizations, the projects, lowering expectations, looking very much to the financial side of the sector, giving time to look at feedback in terms of economics, because of course this is very much about economics. But the backdrop of everything keeps the same, so the strategy keeps the same. Decarbonization, of course. We, every day, we listen to new situations, let's say, climate extremes. Sometimes those news don't appear on the television or whatever, the communication support, like in France 2 days ago. Nobody is taking care because people tend to normalize, but the climate change keeps going. And the bar is raising a bit every year. But the second topic on the backdrop of everything is that we need more and more energy to support development, to support growing, to support the development of not so developed countries. Okay? So the backdrop is the same. The strategy should be the same. The pace is different, and organizations, companies, schools, whatever, need to adapt to the new dynamics and to rethink a bit on the perspective they are to thrive.
And it's interesting, one thing that crossed my mind, which was in the first edition, it was just before the US, the American elections, and the professor Pedro Brinca gave an overview about geopolitical game, and it's interesting now to see now after 6 months later, 7 months later, what is happening.
Yeah,
he didn't have a crystal ball, but it was a good reflection about what could happen.
You are quite right, because contrary to the common sense, we designed the first edition as a course on the complexity, the sustainability dimension, but the complexity of the energy transition.
Exactly.
Okay, we were not on the path of that's a walk on the park. Okay, so our goal was to stimulate critical thinking on people, and the American election was, of course, a subject on that. Not the only one.
Yes, not the only one, but in this first module that I remember this.
Very much.
His course. Now, in terms of technologies, now we have technologies such as green hydrogen, battery storage, and smart grids promise to create a revolution in the sector, but on the other hand, face cost and infrastructure barriers, okay? The integration of these intermittent sources requires investments, huge investments in resilience and digitalization systems, while dependence on certain critical, the famous critical raw materials that today are on the news, and which creates geoeconomic risks, as we know. What, in your opinion, what criteria should prioritize the development of emerging technologies to avoid lock-ins and ensure long-term environmental returns? Lock-in is a nice topic as well.
How many players do we have in the world
Exactly.
playing this game?
Exactly.
Thousands and thousands and thousands. So we have, well, I'm not here to give the answer to nothing.
Exactly.
Our goal in our course is to raise questions, but to find the correct questions to be raised. But now the topic we said is always about innovation. Okay?
Exactly.
Everything is about innovation, not only on materials, not only on the high tech, but very much on regulation, on design. Let's say design as a whole. But you are right. We have something that is crucial, is the cornerstone of everything: networks. We call it normally smart grids. Okay, but let's translate it to a common language.
What is it at the end of the day?
Bi-directional flows of energy. Bi-directional. Okay. Just let's make an analogy with water, because when speaking on power, the electric power, we always have one idea to compare to water flows. Imagine you are taking water at your home, your business, from the grids, the water grids. Okay. Now you change the market, and you can also add water to the grid from your home. Okay, you need to raise the voltage of the water. Okay, how can you do that? Okay, in terms of water, you must imagine that you need to be higher on the system to find a way to include your water in the system. So it's not the same, but to give an image, this is the problem. And we need a lot of electronics for that. Okay? And we need to redesign all the grid. Okay? All the grid, because our grid was based on highways, first smaller highways, normal roads, and then small streets, okay, and everything you need to cross the system, okay? Now we need to levelize everything, still keeping on highways, etc., etc. How can we reset everything in just a moment? We can't, okay? So to support many technologies, different technologies, and the levelized flow, organized flow, smart flow of energy, you need to have, let's say, many roads on the same cable. Okay, this is about the digital, physical, digital approach, but it's about electronics, very much about math. Okay, and it's about looking at the system as we can look to an orchestra, okay? Many musicians.
Yes, more. And if you add on that equation the communities of energy.
Whatever you join, we are always joining stuff and stuff and stuff, and everything must flow, okay? So the challenge, the heart of the challenge is the grid. Bi-directional grid. And then we can do a lot of things. We cannot develop too much wind farms if we don't have the grid. You cannot develop too much small photovoltaic at home if you cannot connect it correctly to the grid. Okay, so we need a lot of intelligence, and this is connected with a lot of risks, a lot of investments, different thoughts, different management of the grid, but also, let's say, different concepts, okay, different designs. Okay.
Because at the end of the day, and you mentioned production, let's go to the production, is decentralized production. And if it's the product, because in the past everything was centralized.
Yeah, that's the idea of
15
the
years or 20
highways and so on.
20 years ago,
we
never thought about having solar panels in our houses or companies.
But the question is not about producing for self-consumption.
No, I understand that in both directions.
Yeah.
And then you put in the grid.
But also the point.
And the grid must be prepared for that.
Yeah, it's not easy. Why? Because energy, let's say, electricity flows at the pace of the speed of the light, okay, with a small, a little bit under the speed of the light. And we need to get the data from that at the same speed.
Exactly.
Okay? And we also have, everybody knows that, IA, that works like dinosaurs, eating energy, and needs a lot of connections, huge cables, and so on. So everything is changing, and for that, the grids, the smart grids, the bidirectional grids are the core of the topic, and also, of course, something that can lock our investment if we cannot access a correct grid, okay? So that's a major point. The other part of the question, we have seen that on your first question, is when we are looking to countries or at countries without grids, we can imagine that it's very hard to develop a renewable energy base for the economic development. So it's very tricky, and that's a reason why we always say, I think, global, act local, and so on. There are a number of phrases on that concept, but it's very hard and challenging.
Exactly. So let's now move to sustainable impact and social impact of this energy transition challenge. And when you talk about environmental impacts, we are talking about biodiversity, waste, rare materials, end of life of the equipment, and in terms of social impacts, energy poverty, local communities, and at the end of the day, we need to promote equity and inclusion. Okay, how can we ensure that the energy transition is sustainable, not at the environmental point of view, but also at the social, from a social point of view, ensuring this equity and inclusion for the different stakeholders?
We have a number of different perspectives on that. Okay, why? Because really there are people, let's say, governments, that really don't care about. Okay, we need to recognize that. So this is not written on stone, the topics you raised. Second, it depends very much on the specific region. Okay, for Portugal, it's one thing. For the United States, Texas in the United States is a different thing. Okay, not everybody is synchronized on the issues, on the social dimension, on the environmental dimension. So the traffic on this subject is quite messy. Okay?
Okay.
And the pressure varies very much. It is very relevant. Secondly, from my own view, and let's say from EDP's view, but from the major view on the renewable sector side, we cannot disconnect environment and people. It's impossible. Every time both approaches are connected. Okay? When we impact with a project, with an infrastructure, the local environment, we are still impacting people. Okay, people and the environment are very, very much connected. So try to connect those dots, and the result will be better for sure, and the outcome will be better. But looking at the social side, isolated side of the dynamics of the transition, we think that we have an opportunity to give to people that is not that really don't have access to electricity, mainly because they are not connected to the grid.
To the grid, yes.
Okay. We think we can take the transition to partly solve the problem. Why? Because we have some technologies like PV, solar PV, that can help locally, local communities. They are disconnected from the grid, okay? But that should be a transitional phase and not the solution. We need to imagine that everybody has access
to
the grid.
To the grid, yes.
And this is the main question. Secondly, of course, local communities, meaning not only, including urban communities, are really impacted by the change. Not only through photovoltaics or wind turbines or grids, but also because the public space now is a bit changed. I think about EV, electric vehicles, okay? Everything is changed. So we have no way to get really the people in if we don't share the projects with people, and that means that people or local communities or communities have a stake on the projects and can get some direct benefits from the project. We have lessons from that, okay? Where if the wind projects, for instance, or big solar projects, give back to the community enough to promote the dynamics of the community and develop the community. So having in mind that it's not about only permitting or the license, the theoretical license to operate or legal or whatever, it's about people being in with the project, okay? That is hard to settle. We have not a single, only one solution, because every solution must be a result of a dialogue, listening to people, understanding, and cooperating. So I think we don't have a different approach, mainly because in a couple of years, everybody is going to understand the huge amount of infrastructure that we are going to build up to solve the climate crisis and to lower the emissions.
Keeping in mind all the impacts of that.
Well, yes, 360 degrees.
Exactly.
Degrees perspective.
Now, continue and talking about here, I'm going to move to the opportunities of energy transition and in terms of people as well. And this challenging process requires new skills, reskilling, talent attraction, retention, diversity, and inclusion in organizations. What skills and professional profiles will be most in demand in the energy sector in the coming years? Okay, and how can organizations prepare their teams on this new context?
Well, on your question, we have to, from my view, we have two different perspectives or approaches. One is the sector is facing a challenge just like any other sector in terms of talent, okay? just like any sector. But what is specific to the power, the renewable sector, is something like this. One, we have an opportunity. I will tell how. A very big opportunity to attract people. But before that, we have the need to have a lot of engineers, electricians, a lot of people, okay? Not, let's say, the old staff of engineers that are sit on the desk, drawing in a paper, circuits and stuff like that. No, we need to have dynamic electricians with a huge level of digital skills, algorithms and so on, with the level of math, okay? And very agile, okay? And this is a major point. When we move from major towns to not so big towns or to the countryside, the need for electricians on the field is a big issue, okay? Not everything you can do remotely, okay? Something we need to put
because you talk about the physical infrastructure.
Yeah, but at the same time, we are now looking for standardization, robots, okay? In a way, we don't need to pick a boat to travel to a turbine in the ocean. Sometimes we need, but many times now, we can fly with a drone to check a turbine, okay? And we can also transport stuff, okay? Lowering costs and time and human risks.
And do the first screening.
Yeah, exactly. At the same time, when we look to setting up a little farm, we understand that we can scale up more the farm, and but most part of the work done by robots. Also, the cleaning of the panels can be done by robots, meaning that we don't need so many people on risky work and on civil work, and then attracting, for instance, women to the jobs.
Okay.
Okay, but this is also a dynamics. What will be the final draw of everything? We don't know. But the trend is robotization, lowering personal risks, physical risks, and having dynamic teams that can move from site to site, not living close to the farms. Okay, so this is the most interesting part of the talent attraction. We also have a special challenge that is connected with the how can we plan an investment on infrastructure, not looking only with the traditional data, financial data, okay, but also how can we incorporate the permitting times, the dialogue times, and still getting results, some ROI on the projects, okay? Because the timing, since the sourcing of the equipment, supply chains, permitting, everything takes a lot of time. So we need to include that mindset on people planning the investments and getting the financing and explaining the situation to the financing sector, okay? This is a very interesting and challenging job, okay? Because it opens very much the mind, people's mind, And probably we will attract different people to the job, very open to what is not state on stone. Everything apart that is similar to other business, I believe.
Yes, and the challenges are the same.
Yeah.
We are approaching the end of the conversation. I don't know if we have questions from the audience, and
easy questions, please.
Easy questions, please. I don't know.
Ui, so small. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
There's here one question. The current grid planning and interconnection framework is designed for fossil fuels, making it difficult for clean energy developers to integrate. Would you agree that we need a proactive approach that anticipates clean energy needs rather than just reacting to the existing grid?
Planning. The answer is planning. And the planning cannot be just local. Okay? Mm-hmm. The planning, and not regional. For instance, at the scale of the European Union, the planning should be set all over the European Union. Okay? An investment, typically at the European Union, can take 2, 3, 4, 5 years from scratch to the final. To the connection to the grid, let's say. We need to understand that we need a faster permitting, okay? And the faster permitting we can achieve comes with a huge planning, okay? We need to make clear that we can do something on that area and we have the connection for that on timing and so on. Okay, when we speak about power outage, blackouts, we speak about planning. Okay, about having the inverters on the system that have enough electronics to always measure
exactly
the grid and to block. Let's say when we have voltage fluctuations or frequency fluctuations, you need to have a planning on that. So the answer for me, it's always the same. Planning. You have planning, common planning. We cannot spend time on political debate if you should do A or B or C or saying that you need to solve the issue alone. Mm-hmm. Okay, planning.
And before we finish, I have here one question about something that sometimes we tend to forget or don't give the importance that it's required. In all these transitions, you need the people, you need the engagement, you need the consumer engagement. Okay. Yeah. And you need transparent communication and avoid and combating greenwashing. These, in my opinion, are key elements for the success of the energy transition. How can businesses, companies, public sector better engage consumers and society in energy transition, promoting informed choices and avoiding greenwashing?
Yeah. Greenwashing has been a huge topic now for a couple of years. We have legal acts all over the world, from Singapore to Brazil and so on. The greenwashing question, not only when thinking about consumers or customers, but also on the financial sector with funds and so on. But I think greenwashing will lower the appeal to greenwash because the reality now expresses the challenge in a different way. Okay? But yes, what we assisted a month ago and years ago was very much a fashion, okay, on decarbonization and renewable. It was a fashion, okay. It was nice. It was trendy, trendy. So everybody wants to be in the party, okay. Those times, I believe, should be terminated now. But the second question, the second part of your question is we need to give more detailed and comparable information to people. Okay, everybody now knows a lot of everything and has access, and they have the right to have the detailed information. But it is not only about the right; it's about empowering people. Okay, it's not an obligation; it's useful for business. You need to give details. Okay, why this is better than that, or in what perspective this fits better your options. Okay, so labeling with detail and assuring what is said on the label is the best way to get people in, because in the end of the day,
they can make informed decisions and choices.
On the end of the day, if the experience, the personal experience, or each company experience on the product or the service is not as it has been sold, then we'll have a setback. And we cannot afford a setback because climate change is a real stuff.
Exactly. Eduardo, thank you very much.
You are welcome.
It was
And,
great,
thank you
this conversation will continue, but we need to finish.
Thank you to Nova for accepting our challenge, because from EDP's view, we need a lot of critical thinking to face the challenges. Nobody has the ownership of the knowledge. In this sector, it doesn't happen. And people need to understand which side of the narratives each is useful for each one and for business.
Exactly.
Okay? Many business need to integrate on their strategy from different sectors the power dimension, the electricity dimension, the energy dimension. Everybody needs to define how is going to be its position on the energy consumption. Okay, this is up to everyone. And for us, for EDP, we need to raise the voice on those aspects, and we are very pleased to do that with the Academy, and of course with Nova. This program will be fantastic, I believe, because the first edition was very nice.
Correct.
And the second edition promises a lot.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you very much.
And thank you very much for your words. And Katia, now.
As we wrap up today's session, I hope these insights shared have sparked ideas, raised important questions, and perhaps even inspired action. Thank you all for joining us all. If you'd like to know more information about the Sustainable Energy Transition Program and how we can support you or your organization, we are happy to continue the conversation. The program link is available in the webinar chat. If we didn't get to your question today, we'll follow up by email. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly at katia.marinho@novasbe.pt. A huge thank to your guest speakers, Luis Veiga Martins and Eduardo Moura, for their time and valuable contribution. Thank you again, and have a great afternoon.